Erin Levine of Hello Divorce, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to have you here.
Absolutely, Tracy. It's my pleasure.
Let me just introduce you for our audience. Erin is on a mission to help separating couples empower a better life ahead. She's an experienced lawyer turned founder of Hello Divorce, a venture capital backed online platform that combines easy to use digital tools with expert help to make divorce easier and kinder. And you've been featured all over the place because you are knocking it out of the park in this space. And I am so excited to talk to you today about do it yourself divorce. And I've got to tell you, I think calling it do it yourself divorce really underplays what you guys are doing and how much you're impacting the divorce space.
Yeah, thank you. We're really trying to shift the narrative on that. And it's a tricky one. But what we have found is that the vast majority of the people who use Hello Divorce to complete their divorce start to finish want some additional support throughout the divorce experience, not just a beautiful software experience. They want to know that if they have questions about the process, or a legal question, or a financial question, or if they need some emotional support along the way, that they have access to all of that too. So we'll need to work on how we talk about it. Really, what we mean when we say DIY is less about do it yourself and more about do it within your control, not just handing it off to someone to take it over for you.
Well, I struggle a little bit with the DIY concept too, with the divorce money guide, because what I'm trying to communicate to people is that they have control over their process, that they are probably saving money, right? They're not spending as much on legal fees and things like that. But do it yourself also can sound really scary. So I like to focus on that there is support here and it really isn't all do it yourself. So I like that concept of you have control over it, but we are here supporting you.
It's really taking the matter into your own hands, right? And then deciding whether or not it makes sense to add additional assistance or expert help along the way. Very similar experience with Hello Divorce. You may or may not need extra help along the way. It's nice to know it's available, but really the goal is to lower the cost and the conflict so that you can, like you said earlier, empower a better life ahead.
Well, you mentioned two concepts, the cost and the conflict. Let me ask about the cost first, because what I hear so often is people saying, I can't afford divorce. And you and I know that attorney's fees can be crushing sometimes. When people feel there's no alternative, maybe they might even feel they can't get divorced because they can't afford it. So, can you
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit about on the cost side, how something like Hello Divorce is impacting people?
When we think about cost, there's a couple of things, right? The actual cost of getting divorced, going through the legal process and dividing assets, and then what your post divorce budget will look like. So let's focus on the first piece, which is that the average cost of divorce is $20,000 per person in legal fees. And while some of your viewers will be able to afford that, many will not. Even a lot that can afford it may not want to spend that kind of money on divorce attorney fees. And there's a couple big reasons why divorce fees tend to skyrocket and be so high. And keep in mind, I am a divorce lawyer. I have been a divorce lawyer for 16 years. I'm a certified family law specialist. There are plenty of reasons to hire a lawyer, but you're peppered with that all over the media and the web, right? Anytime you go to a lawyer's blog, you will see how all the nuance, all the things that could possibly go wrong and why you need a lawyer. So you already know that. Let's talk about how to kind of lower the cost or look at different frameworks for getting from married to unmarried without that expense. All right, so cost $20,000 per person on average. At Hello Divorce, the average cost is $1,500 per couple.
As you were talking, I was thinking about this phrase of unbundled legal services. So sometimes when people are talking about, I can't afford the legal fees of a divorce, I've heard people say, and I've even said, look into unbundled legal services. Can you talk about how
Mhm.
Hello Divorce fits into that descriptor?
There are two big pieces to the divorce legal process. There is procedure and there is substance. The procedure is all of the forms that have to be completed, have to be filed with the court, signed, exchanged with your spouse in a way that comports with the law, and even stapled the correct way or paper clipped so that the judge will ultimately sign off on it. That is one piece that you might decide you want to outsource either to a company like mine to do via software or to work with a lawyer who does unbundled services. So that means they'll help you with one piece of your divorce, but not necessarily handle the whole thing. So that might be, hey, lawyer, I'll handle the forms with Hello Divorce or another company, but I would like you to review them before I file them. The second big part of divorce is substance. And when I talk about substance, I mean getting to an agreement on all the divorce related issues from property and debt to kids. That's another area that you can, if you want, use unbundled services. Um, if you are having trouble getting to an agreement with your spouse, if you are having trouble figuring out what would be fair versus what isn't, if you want to understand your best case versus your worst case scenario, the important thing to know here is that unless there's an emergency, you are going to have time throughout the process to decide who is best to help you and when. And when you are thoughtful about those decisions, when you don't just say to a lawyer, here, take it and run, I don't care how messy it gets, I just don't want to deal with it. When you're thoughtful about these decisions, you're not only going to save a lot of money, but you're going to be a lot happier with the outcome. Because if there's one thing I learned after helping thousands of people through divorce, it's that how you approach it really will help inform how it goes. How you approach it, right? If you approach it with, I am going to go in guns blazing, I'm not going to give my spouse a heads up, I'm going to have the lawyer file the documents and show up with a process server on my spouse's doorstep without any notice when my kids are home. You're really setting it up for an adversarial process. And sometimes you need to. If your spouse is doing bad things, like hiding a lot of assets or threatening to take your kids away, sometimes you need to take it up a notch. But for the most part, what we need to understand is that 95% of divorces settle without a contested trial, and somewhere, for the most part, in the range of what is fair.
When it comes to the substance of the divorce and that assistance with figuring out how are we dividing things, how are we setting up custody, what does your company offer to people in terms of assistance there?
Yeah, this is probably what I'm most proud of. So I'm so thrilled you're asking. Um, what I'm most proud of is that we break the divorce um, process into three steps. And when we get to the substance piece, we offer resources and calculators um, and everything sort of self service that is possible with today's technology. But what what gets me really excited is that we also offer these unbundled services. So this integrated expert help if you get stuck, if you and your spouse have too much conflict, if you need to value a piece of property together, if you need a mediator to jump in and broker a deal between the two of you. So, what I like about it too is, first of all, you don't have to pay a big retainer. You can meet with one of these professionals on your own or with a spouse for as little as 30 minutes or as much as 5 hours. But what I like is there isn't the requirement or the expectation that a lawyer will solve all of your needs. We have lawyers, again, to provide legal advice, to review documents, to be there if you need them. But most people who have financial issues don't necessarily want a lawyer to do that financial analysis. So that's why we bring in certified divorce financial analysts, because they are amazing and that is what they are trained to do. So I think, in short, we have the software to help everyone get through all the divorce process. We have tools to help you try to come to an agreement, but some people need additional support on top of that. And that's when we bring in experts and they come to you instead of you now having to go out and find someone and explain to them the situation and start over and all that stuff.
So let's suppose my soon to be ex and I are pretty amicable, and we're working through agreeing on the assets and support payments. And I'm at the child custody part. And we're agreeing that we want to have 50-50 legal custody. And we're talking about the parenting specifics. Who's going to have the kids when, what days, how holidays are going to work. And I understand that these agreements can get really detailed because someone really wants to control exactly what time a kid comes back or exactly what happens on certain holidays and all sorts of things. And they want to know, how do I write this up? Like, how detailed do I need to get in the agreement? Is that something that one of your experts can help them with?
Yes, I would start with downloading our free co-parenting plan worksheet so you can think through all of these things and determine what you actually do agree on or what you think maybe won't be so controversial and what really needs to be focused on if you were to work with one of our mediators or co-parenting counselors. That way, again, like, you're saving money, you're focusing your time with your expert on things that you actually need help with instead of just showing up with, the whole thing, like
The
with
blank slate.
all of the issues. Yes, exactly.
I love that there's a tool that sort of gets you to a point where you can figure out what it really is that you don't agree on or you need help with. Maybe it's not that you don't agree, you just don't know what the best way is to approach something. When people are getting divorced, the default attitude is we disagree on everything. But in reality, I think they end up actually agreeing on a lot of things, and it ends up being those finer points that they just need
Yep.
some help working through, right?
I think most people agree on far more than they think they actually do. Because of that, I think if you can set ground rules with your spouse, even if it's as simple as we agree on nothing except A, we're not going to talk about our divorce or our issues in front of our kids, and B, we are going to try and keep this out of court. Those are two ground rules that can be really, really helpful in your divorce, because it also lends itself to, hey, we know that we might not agree on everything. We know we might need some expert help, but we also know how awful and expensive and messy it can get if we have to fight about it in court. So there's some commitment there to start to work together.
So, who is a good candidate for the DIY divorce model?
But if the goal is to try to keep the um, the stress and mess to a minimum, Hello Divorce could be a really good option. I think Hello Divorce is actually a great option for most people, and it might be easier to talk about who it isn't a good option for. So it isn't a good option, unfortunately, if there is some serious domestic violence, because legal regulations don't allow us to represent you. And that's, in fact, what you might actually need. It's also not a good option if your goal is to punish your spouse, to get emotional justice instead of emotional closure. If you really want to make this as messy and hard and awful for your spouse as possible, that is not our model at all. Our model is to try to help you come to an agreement that feels fair, as quickly as reasonably possible. And then finally, if there are any emergencies that are related to your case, if your ex is keeping your kids from you, or if you have been cut off from finances. In that case, Hello Divorce might be an option down the road, but you likely need some court intervention right from the start. And while we have partners that we can refer you to, we can't help you directly.
So it sounds to me like if either spouse is really intent on making the divorce a really ugly process, something like Hello Divorce is not going to be a good option for them.
Right. You can get some of your paperwork done. Everybody's got to do financial disclosures. Everybody's got to do either like a petition or sometimes called a complaint versus a response or an answer. And so you are welcome to handle a lot of the paperwork or even the first draft of that paperwork. You're welcome to use one of our divorce coaches to help manage the stress throughout the divorce, but it's not going to be the right option for you all the way through the legal process, start to finish.
Is it only appropriate if a couple is coming to you really from the beginning of their divorce, or could they come to you midstream where they say, oh gosh, we've been
Mhm.
litigating this for a year and we're now out of money for attorneys, and so we need an option?
We get a lot of people who are in that situation. Either their divorce judgment or paperwork keeps getting rejected by the court for various reasons and they need help fixing it, or it's been messy, it's been awful, they're ready to move on and get to an agreement. And so Hello Divorce steps in at that point. So it can be at any point. You can start it with your spouse, without your spouse. A lot of people, especially women, they want to know what to expect before actually filing or telling their spouse. So they might, choose one of our plans like DIY or DIY Pro just to work on the paperwork, get their ducks in a row. And then, leave open the option of switching to a more formal representation if need be. So really my goal is for everyone to come to the site who's going through a divorce, find something to help them navigate this next chapter or manage the overwhelm that comes with uncertainty and transition. For some people, that will be helping them all the way through their divorce. For others, it might be downloading a plan for their divorce or a co-parenting worksheet. I hope to have that as software soon, but it's a PDF for now and it's really helpful. And for others, they will just join us after their divorce or towards the end of their divorce in our new program, Hello Next Chapter, which includes help for everything from dividing assets to finding the right health insurance plan, all the stuff that comes up. We want to help guide you through.
That is really exciting. So, what can you tell us about this concept of taking control of your divorce and making decisions for yourself and how your divorce is going to shake out versus letting the courts decide what happens to you?
Y'all have so much more control than you think you do. If you let a judge decide, then you are leaving your life up to somebody else's hands. Like literally, they may have spent 2 minutes looking at the paperwork associated with your case last night at midnight after a very long and full day. They might be in whatever mood, they might have whatever bias. Judges are human. And as much as we want to think that going to them, they're going to give us a really fair result, we just can't count on it. So I don't know about you, but I much rather have the ability to influence my future than to give it up to that up to somebody else to handle it for me.
So, we talked about keeping the costs of divorce down, we talked about the control issue. Are there any other benefits that are huge in your mind to using something like Hello Divorce to help you get through the divorce process?
The best part, I think, about Hello Divorce is something that I never even thought about when I was founding it, which is that you have a representative, a customer service agent, an account coordinator, whatever you want to call it, with you from the first day you start your divorce until your divorce is finalized. There's not this like amorphous, like 1-800 number customer service that you could call and wonder if you'll get a hold of someone, or a super, super, super busy lawyer that doesn't have time to assure you that everything's going to be okay or that, X document got filed and here's the next thing you need to do. At Hello Divorce, you will always have that. You will always have someone there with you the entire time. They might not be able to answer all your questions, but if they can't, they will make sure you get the resource or the human that you need to take care of whatever else is on your mind. And I think that is just, that makes me so proud. We have this amazing team of actually primarily divorced folks who've been through the process and want to help you through it. That makes me really proud. And I think that would be really, I think a lot of people really connect with that.
I think that support through the divorce process is something really important and something that people might not think they'll need when they start the process. But for sure, I think that is fantastic. So if I do have a complicated situation, can I use Hello Divorce? Is that still possible?
Complicated estate-wise, absolutely. We have had people with $25 million estates. Oftentimes, like, they will need an expert, either a mediator or a CDFA to help unwind complicated financial stuff. But yes, absolutely, that's our full service divorce. It's $3,500 and includes both parties. If you have a complicated divorce from an interpersonal standpoint, meaning there is no way at all the two of you are going to come to an agreement without a judge, um, banging her gavel, then it's not going to work for you.
So if someone is listening to this and is thinking that an option for DIY divorce is really something that might work for them, how would they get started with Hello Divorce?
So I would say check out our Instagram if you haven't already. We have a really strong, amazing community and a great team that responds to direct messaging. If you have questions that you want to keep private or need some help figuring out what direction to go. I also would say do one of two things. Either go to our website and schedule a free 15-minute call. So go to hellodivorce.com, schedule a 15-minute call. For many people, it is the first time they're saying the word divorce out loud. That's okay. We get it. That's what we're trained to do, but we'll help you figure out what your path is going forward. Or simply sign up for our newsletter and you'll receive weekly tips and some other great resources to kind of help you ease into this because, you know, it's a process, right? Like, we are unraveling the biggest financial and emotional contract in many cases of our lives. And so we're going to take it a step at a time.
I know that you are passionate about really changing divorce in a big way. And that's something I'm passionate about as well, because I think that people involved in divorce need to be able to take more control of that situation for themselves, get through the process in a better, less expensive, less contentious way. And so I am so grateful that you would be here today to talk about the whole concept of do-it-yourself divorce.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.